Welcome back to another episode of Real Life Fishing. And in this episode, we are going to airbrush a musky bait. So as you guys know, the last few episodes, I've been working on making hard musky baits, jerk baits, or crank baits, I guess. Yeah, so the last couple episodes, we covered epoxy, and we covered sanding them down. All right, so I said I was going to get a new vise. So here is the new vise. This guy right here, and it's a 6-inch, and works great. You can see it's already covered in sawdust. But so the musky baits we did the epoxy on, these guys right here. I am disappointed to report that these were an epic failure. I did learn a valuable lesson, and that is don't go making an ass load of lures that you haven't tested yet. For a whole bunch of reasons that I'm not going to go into, I was convinced that this wood damn near was impossible to sink. Wrong. 1.5 ounces of lead will do it. So those do not float. Those are boat anchors or paperweights. We actually put 2 of them on the Christmas tree as ornaments this year. So yeah, don't do that. So lesson number 1, test everything first. And before we continue, for those of you keeping score at home, tonight is McKenna 10 single barrel. If you've not had this and you're a bourbon fan, get you some. All right, so testing. So I'll show you the body from those. So these are the blanks that created those perch-looking lures. These obviously are not shaped. You can see pretty clearly that I've hogged out quite a bit of material there for lead. And as it turns out, these hold about 1.5 ounces of lead, which is far too much for this body. So I have a box of those. If anybody would like some, drop your contact info in the comments. I'll be happy to provide you with some. You'll have to figure out how to fill those voids back in or use them for practice painting or whatever, but you let me know, I'll get you some. In any event, so testing. So I've got these 3 here. So these 3 are all different. So this one here, right? So you test with hooks and hardware and everything on there, so you got your weight as close as possible to finished product, right? The only thing missing is epoxy. But this one here, you can see does not have any lead in it. So I thought, well, maybe the hooks will be enough to provide the ballast to keep it upright, right? Wrong. This swims like this. Bad. Need some weight. So then next I tried this one. And this one is one of those bodies that's no good. But you can see here that instead of lead, I filled this with JB Weld putty. And then this I just filled back in with wood filler. And then super glue sealed the whole thing and epoxied the lip in and took it out and threw in the water. And it swam okay. But I'll be honest, filling these back in was just a big pain in the ass and not really worth my trouble, to be perfectly honest. So, fail. This one swam pretty good. This one here, I drilled 2 1/4-inch holes in here, each a little under 1/2 inch deep maybe. And so this one has just under 1/2 ounce of lead in it, if memory serves on my calculations there based on the specific gravity of lead and the volume of those holes. But yeah, this one swam pretty good. So I created 2 more. And one of them I put those same 2 holes, and then the other one I put those same 2 holes there, but then I also put another weight back here, just 1. And so that's plenty of buoyancy yet, according to my calculations. But I just want to see what that would do with the action, having 1 back there, right? So yesterday, well, I got them both all primed, sealed, primed, everything else. So yesterday, I painted up this one and epoxied in the screw eyes and the lip and put in the eyes. So this is ready for epoxy. But before I do that, I need to paint up the other one. And you'll notice that I'm only touching this by the bill, right? I don't have gloves on. Don't touch these barehanded. You get fish eyes. No bueno. So here's the other one that we're going to be working with. Right, I've got this on some helping hands, is what these things are called. It took me a while to figure that out because I don't solder. So helping hands. If you're going to be making lures, those are what these things are called. You can get them from Harbor Freight. The Harbor Freight. This is a Harbor Freight one here. They're okay. This one here is actually from Menards. The Harbor Freight ones are $4.99. The Menards ones are actually only $3.99. They've got a much sturdier base to them, but the jaws aren't quite as large as the Harbor Freight ones. So kind of take your pick. But it's only $1 price difference, right? And the Harbor Freight ones, I actually bought a whole bunch of these and took them apart to make bigger ones, as you'll see here. We're going to transfer this to a painting setup that I have. But first, gloves. Okay, we got our gloves on. So we're going to take this bait off of here. This one's all nice and sealed already. I just use some Minwax sanding sealer. Let that cure off overnight and then sand it back down flat. And then I just use some white primer, some rattle can primer, to give myself a nice white base to start painting from. So here's my bastardized Harbor Freight helping hands. You can see I took this centerpiece out of 2 of them and put them on here and made myself a nice little extension. And so this is really nice because I've got a lot more room to work with, depending on how I want to spin these arms around and what I want to do with them. But yeah, this is a lot easier than trying to work on this tiny little deal here where when you spin the bait, sometimes you'll actually bump the alligator clips. I've done that. It screws up the bait then on the nose or on the tail, wherever you hit it. So having this this nice larger one here is pretty nice. You know, and it articulates however you want, right? So when I'm doing stencil work, I'll lay it down like this on the bench, and yeah, it's pretty nice. So I don't know that, you know, it was necessarily worth spending an extra $5 just to get each of these 2 parts. There's probably a better way to go about it, or maybe there's some other brand of helping hands that would afford you more room, but this is the solution that I came up with, so I'm going with it. And I just created 2 of these, right? The rest of them are all just these regular little, like that. So what are we going to paint today? You know, I don't know, actually. That last one I did there that I showed you was kind of my first attempt at a Cisco pattern. I've obviously done some perch pattern stuff, but yeah, I'm pretty new to airbrushing, honestly. You know, I've gotten some compliments from some people on the paint on these, that they think it's pretty good. You know, the epoxy on these wasn't the best. So, but in any event, yeah, I've had some pretty solid feedback on the paint on those, but yeah, I haven't painted a whole lot before. So, let's take a look at the paint that I've got available. So here's my my paint collection, and this is all Createx Wicked colors. So I'm going to stop talking though, and I'm going to pick out some colors and get to work here. I'll probably time lapse this for you guys or something so that you don't have to sit here and just watch the whole thing. But I'm going to go ahead and get started. All right, so here's my that bait that we just made. This is my first attempt at a bluegill pattern, and I'm not sure how crazy I am about the colors that I chose, but I do like the pattern. Might need a little bit of work. Pretty happy with the effect that I got though, with the scales and that silver paint. So that's nice. But let's go ahead and mix up some epoxy and get that lip and screw eyes into this thing. So I just like to finish them up by hand so that the rings are perfectly lined up and facing exactly the way that I want and screwed in as tight as I want. And we'll just wipe off a little bit of this excess epoxy here. Normally that wouldn't be an issue, but when you put these screws in the first time, some of the metal filings come off and they color the epoxy. So we just wanted the epoxy on the threads. We don't need it running down the side of the bait. We're gonna coat the outside of the bait as well as get some more epoxy on the rings when we seal it. So not worried about that. So now what we need to do, we're gonna put a hanger on here. And we'll just set this guy right here for the moment. We gotta get some epoxy on that lip so we can get that into the bait. So here's a lip that I'm using. These are just G10 lips, also called circuit board, but drilled a couple of small holes there. You can see that, and then scuffed it up with some sandpaper. And so now I'm just going to put a little bit of epoxy on both sides of this. Make sure I get it in those holes, right? Because those holes are going to help to hold this in there. There we go. And we're just going to take this lip and put it into the lip slot on the bait. Make sure that it's even left to right and seated fully, and then check to make sure that it's even. That looks good to me. So we'll go ahead and hang this guy. And tomorrow that will be ready for epoxy. Sure, let's take a closer look at the other one. Plus I rebuilt my my drying rig here. It's a little larger now, and I did some fancy dados and rabbits in the corner and glued this together and whatnot. I was practicing with my new router table, but yeah, so here's the other one that I made. This is my first attempt at a Cisco pattern. I don't know if this camera is picking up the faint scales on there. Probably look better once the epoxy's on, but this one I'm pretty pleased with. Looking forward to getting the epoxy coat on here and seeing how she swims. All right, folks. Well, I think that's going to do it for the evening. I've still got to edit this and get this posted so that you guys can enjoy watching it. But if you've made it this far, thanks for sticking with me. I hope you learned something. I hope that I'm able to edit this down so it's not a half an hour long. And again, my goal with every video is to get one new subscriber. So if you are not subscribed yet, please do me a favor, click the button. It'll be down there in the left-hand corner. Should be over there. And if you like the video, if you learned something, the like button should be down there. So go ahead and click that for me. And we'll see you next time.